Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis.
And I'm the disembodied voice.
And this is...
No Capes.
You always pause.
I know.
Anyway, we're going to talk about comics from the week of... What did I say? June 25th?
There you go.
Sounds good. We'll go with that. Hopefully there's not too much echo. Since I'm suddenly hearing a lot of echo. We'll go with the glare, right?
Yep, echo and glare.
Anyway, Red Thorn issue number 8 from Vertigo. What are you thinking of this book? You know, we haven't talked about this book at all, so that leads me to believe this isn't really high on anybody's list.
I am having trouble keeping up with what's going on in this book. It's like, it's about figuring out what's going on, what happened to her sister, and now it's about Red Thorn taking over, you know, the world and getting rid of all the magical creatures or whatever that are the new gods or whatever that are out there. And
the half.
I like this little stepping
human,
arc story though.
Half human, half
yeah, whatever they are.
Demigod-ish things.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of confused as to what's going on at this point, because it seems like it's jumped around. But I liked the stepping orc narrated story talking about the fact that he's been many different things, and they always are defined by what his name is. And so I kind of liked that part of it.
Yeah, so.
That's it. That's all I have to say about Red Thorn.
But that's what I have to say about it. Yeah, so I mean the fact that he's named after whatever he's doing. So what? I don't.
That was interesting.
I don't care for the story. This would be the first of all of these new Vertigo books that came out. This would be the first one that I would have dropped if I wasn't getting a great deal on buying them all at one time.
Yeah, I liked like the first few, and now I'm just like.
I did not even like the first one. I'm not particularly a fan of the art style. Kind of fat, silhouetted lines, thin lines in between, and then reliant on the colorist to do all the heavy lifting as far as having anything have any depth or whatever.
It is the color that makes it the art.
And I just don't. I mean, that cover's cool, but I have not. Just really haven't cared for it.
I don't feel like it's become a cohesive story, and we're 8 issues in, so.
Right. So, well, I think it's a confusing story. I'm not confused at all. Completely get what's going on.
Good for you.
Don't have a problem with that. It's a boring story. I just don't have.
Maybe that's why I'm confused.
I just don't have an interest in it whatsoever. So, it's the last thing I read when I go to read stuff. It's just kind of like, okay, whatever, you know.
Okay.
If I get to it, I get to it.
Well, then let's not waste any more time on it.
This is the internet. And burning books down is the cool thing to do on the internet.
I'm done with that.
Not talking about good things. So, Pretty Deadly.
Put that away.
Pretty Deadly issue number 10, and this is the final issue of this arc set in World War I. We have a battle between Jenny and War, and War has basically taken control of Courage, I think.
Yep, Courage is the horse.
As a horse, a battle horse. And they kind of, not just metaphorically, they actually duke it out. Yeah, Jenny basically ends World War I by beating War, in a sense. And I can't remember the character's name. The, grandson or son of
Sarah, right?
Sarah, a woman from the first arc who kind of helped our supernatural peoples on their journeys. He gets to go back and visit her on her deathbed, in a sense. Spiritually, he does, anyway.
Yes.
So.
And isn't he a Reaper now?
Could be, yeah.
He's writing Courage. I thought he said he was the Reaper of something else.
Of something else, right.
I think it's interesting that
there are
so many Reapers of different things, but I like it.
Right, right. The concept has changed, maybe from what we originally thought it was in the first arc. It seemed to be a story about death and Death's daughter and that sort of thing. And now we're moving on to something else. And I would guess that the next arc, which every time I talk about this, then I forget what the arc is about, what era it's set in. I can't remember. Somebody wants to say it. Some part of me wants to say it's early Hollywood, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
I think that sounds right. I think that's what they said.
You know, who knows what the story will go then. If
Sure.
it'll still be about Reapers or if it'll be about something completely different. You know, some aspect. So, what'd you think of the issue?
I liked it. I've enjoyed this whole arc. I think I like this arc. I don't know if I liked it better than the first arc, but I did like it very much. I like Pretty Deadly.
I like Pretty Deadly too. I think that probably Kelly Sue DeConnick's storytelling has probably gotten better since that first arc. Just the way she writes.
I think you're probably
I
correct.
think it still has the folklore ness to it is still there. Those aspects are still there, like they were in the first one. They're written in a fashion that makes them a little more, a little easier to digest. I think. I think there's less stuff where it feels like structurally the story is stumbling. Whereas I think in the first one there was more of that. There's amazing art by Emma Reyes in it, colors by Jody Valeri. I will say this though, they're beautiful to look at, but almost hard to discern what is actually happening.
This is true.
I mean,
There's a lot of reading and not as much looking.
this page is gorgeous, but it's challenging to figure out exactly the movement of this page because there is movement in it, but it's. Yeah, I mean, that'd be my only knock. Like I said, I think it's gorgeous looking, but even this where she's fighting, where it's actually like either 3 or 4 panels of her fighting War, but the way that red flows through there and whatnot gives your eye the flow to travel back and forth across the page the way I think it's supposed to. But still hard to ascertain exactly what all is happening there, other than clearly it's a fight between Jenny and War.
I also like the part where, what's his name, kind of tames Courage because it's a horse and he knows horses. I just think that whole sequence on the following page that you just showed, no, the one that's...
I understand what page you're talking about.
I just think that's just a really beautiful sequence.
You say, what's his name? I'm trying to figure out what his name is. Is it
yeah.
Cyrus?
I think that sounds right. It's at the very beginning.
But I thought Cyrus was the...
It's at the very beginning, so you can look on the... I don't want to embody, so I can't lean over and look for you.
Johnny?
Okay.
No, it's Cyrus.
Okay, so who's Johnny?
I'm
All right.
not going to read the comic to find out.
We already read it.
I just looked at the pictures.
Oh, you're cute.
At any rate, yeah, like I said, I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the next.
Me too.
I hope.
If it's in Hollywood, which I think you're correct, that's what it said in the notes.
Yeah.
That's going to be way fun.
Right. My only druther about the book is I wish that it just feels like you get about 3 issues and then we get this long pause before we get the last 1 or 2, it seems like. So I wish we could get
Sure.
breaks in between arcs, cool. I wish the breaks weren't in between.
In between
Stuff. I mean, I appreciate the creators wanting to get it right and have it be what they want it to be. But it's a lot easier for us to read it. When those of us loyal readers who are reading it in singles as opposed to reading it in trade, which it doesn't make it to trade if enough of us aren't reading singles, that they should help us too. And that's a complaint I have, not just with this one, with lots of these independent books.
I feel the same way about books that take a long time.
Is sometimes us who read it in singles as opposed to trade are not getting. It's almost a form of punishment. I mean, like I said, I want it to be right, and I get the idea of the creator wanting it to be right and whatnot. But how do we get it so we get a consistent product too?
Sure.
I guess. Things happen, I know that too. Anyway, Black Road, issue number 3. A Magnus the Black Mystery.
I
Black
really like this book.
Out come the wolves.
It's just fun. Nice cliffhanger ending in this particular
What's fun about it?
issue. Well, fun is not the right word, except for I like the interaction between Magnus and this girl that is not a girl. I mean, she's really well rounded and interesting. And I love the thing where he tells her that she can't cook the rabbit.
Right.
It's just, I like their interactions. She's not going to be cowed by him.
Right. Yeah. So in this issue, our two main characters, they're actually on the Black Road now, traveling north. They're out on a big open plain in the dead of winter. So they good chances of just freezing to death, just walking along and whatnot. I mean, they actually at one point they bust into a house where people have frozen to death inside the house, so they can at least have some
and
cover.
They burned everything.
But so you get that kind of their general dilemma going on, and they're being hunted by wolves. There's a pack of wolves that, of course, are starving to death themselves. So the wolves are chasing them down, and you get this exciting thing that goes on at the beginning and towards the end of the book of these wolves chasing them, which are really, really cool, really well drawn artistically,
Yes,
and that
really.
sort of stuff. But all I think about the book is we have these two characters. We don't know as much about the girl yet, which I was thinking I was going to look at her name, but it's never as simple to like open it up and go, oh yeah, that's her name. We get this kind of backstory as we go along, and I just like the way it's done. It's done in little bits and pieces, relevant to whatever situation they're in. You get these little pieces of memories about them, as opposed to being dumped for the big giant the big giant backstory and whatnot. It goes along with what's going on in the story.
Like the first Aquaman Rebirth, where it's like everything you never wanted to know about Aquaman. So yes, I like this better.
So I really enjoy it for that. I like the characters are really interesting. Magnus himself, I just like the dilemma that he's kind of in. This is fictional, but in an era that kind of actually existed, where Christianity is really rolling across the Slavonic, the Norwegic area across Norway and Sweden and all of that. And he's trying to determine what this whole Christianity thing is really about. Is it something that he should, respect? Is it something that is it going to be the new thing? Is it going to be the New World Order? And if it is the New World Order, he needs to figure out how to deal with it. How to step in line along with what's going on, because clearly it might be a force that's big enough, it's just going to run him over otherwise. Clearly the old gods don't seem to be working real well right now. So should I be invested in this? So while he's debating that, we get this kind of him forecasting ahead of what he thinks ahead, because he knows there's this massive fort built way at the very other end of the Black Road that they're supposed to kind of be going to anyway.
Pardon me.
Because we have this girl who was kind of like the right-hand man of this cardinal, who of course died in the very first issue, and she's going on with his journey. Actually, we haven't figured out exactly why it is that she's doing that, other than they don't know 100% why he was even being sent to this place. Because now we're starting to get some backstory on the archbishop who is living in this massive fort. He's kind of been excommunicated and potentially a crazy person.
Yeah, the fact that he sinks the ships after they bring stuff.
Well, I don't know if that's because he's crazy or he's just an evil bastard who doesn't want people to be told about his empire. If it really is an empire, we're getting kind of this is what we heard story,
right.
not the reality of what's really there. I mean, I almost get the feeling that it's kind of like a Heart of Darkness / Apocalypse Now.
Oh, that should be interesting.
In that he's the crazy guy up there running his crazy thing and whatnot. But it's massive cliffhanger at the end. You get this wonderful scenes of him and her fighting wolves that are chasing them down. What's awesome about her is she's this petite, East Indie descent is kind of how she's described and drawn. But at the same time, she seems just as capable. Last issue, we saw that too. She's very capable of taking care of herself and whatnot.
Yes.
She's very stealth with her crossbow, if nothing else, to kill a few of the wolves and whatnot. But the wolves look like they're going to have the advantage on them unless something else happens. So I'm enjoying it. I like it. Like I said, Gary Brown, inks, and Dave Craig's art is pretty good stuff. And as a side note, Gary Brown does a ton of stuff. He's doing the, I'm not sure if the Massive spin-off is done, but he does the artwork on that.
Oh.
And he's also doing that Aftershocks comic we just read like last week. I want to say it's a revisionist, but that's not right. The one with the guys goes back, messes around in time.
Oh, right. Okay, gotcha.
Whatever that was called. I can't remember what it was called. But he does the artwork in that too, so he's doing 2 ongoings at the same time.
I think revisionist might be correct.
Okay. Anyway, so cool stuff. Really enjoyed that book. Totally on board with it. It's not Northlanders, but it does have elements of it.
It does have that Northlanders feel from time to time. And I really enjoyed Northlanders, so, you know.
But
surprise.
Northlanders, I don't know, delivered a kind of a look at life
Oh, sure.
kind of a thing, even though it was told in olden times. It seems relevant to people's lives and situations even now. This is definitely more fictional. It's telling us a fictional, you know, story, more like a standard piece of fiction, versus what Northlanders, I think, was what was telling a story, except for the one weird arc. It seemed grounded in reality and the hard facts of life.
Yes, that's true.
This isn't necessarily that. Next up, we have She-Wolf, issue number 1. Spell number 1, Shape-Shifting, by Rich Tommaso.
Yeah, I'm going with Tommaso,
Tommaso?
but I really don't know.
Like the cover.
Like the cover.
What'd you think? Had some fun conversations about this book.
I don't know. I appreciate the kind of punk rock art style of it, because she seems like a, you know, punk kind of girl.
Kind of goth.
Goth punk. I don't know. But anyway, so I like that, the art style, which surprises me because I don't usually love that kind of art.
Yeah.
But it suits the comic.
Honestly, I thought it was visually stimulating. That's why I got it, was because I saw the images and went, ooh, yeah, I need to pick up this.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't
Let's
visually
see,
stimulating.
it's stated.
I just feel like the art definitely suits
Okay.
the attitudes she seems to have.
Okay.
Beyond that, I don't know what else to say about it. I feel like I need to see the next issue. I mean, she accidentally turned her boyfriend into a werewolf. Is that what we're supposed to be saying, you know, expecting to happen? And then she herself at the end?
Well, here's me reading the book. I start reading the book. I'm like, okay, clearly something's already happened.
Right.
You know, and there's a kind of a color change, and we're kind of randomly hitting vignettes that seem to be somewhat in linear fashion, but there's large holes in it. Get about halfway through the book, and I'm basically going, what the fuck is going on? You know, I mean, I'm enjoying it in a way, but I'm confused, and I feel like that they've dropped big chunks of story, and I don't, you know, as we're bouncing along, and you know, she's at the beach and she's growling at the dogs, and everybody's freaking out that she's growling at the dogs, and I couldn't figure out why would they make it such a big craziness out of her growling at the dogs. So what? I mean, unless they literally saw her changing into a werewolf.
Because she has kind of a werewolfy face when she does that.
Yeah, but I don't know if anybody sees that.
I know.
And then she's with the priest, and the priest is getting all, you know, heavy, thou shalt repent, whip out the crosses and whatnot, and she's kind of freaking out, and then suddenly she's running across and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden, it flips back to her being in her basement again at the whole beginning of this thing. So it's...
you think it's at the beginning. Okay.
Yeah. If you look at it, right?
Oh, okay.
I had to read it twice. After I read it the first time, going, what the hell? And I get to the end of it, and I'm like, oh, shit, this is the very beginning. And she's saying, oh, no, you know, they don't want to... Because you get to this end, see, here she is going, what? Because she's falling on the pool table. And here she is at the pool table, right? The pool table, and she's like, what's going on? Easy now. And, of course, the werewolf smacks her, knocks her down. And then it suddenly changes... Yeah, okay, put my hand over that part. Cover, you know, changes colors, and then it stays in these kinds of, you know, mostly blues for nights, and it never really goes back to that exact same thing. I mean, there's this crazy ass, you know, well, gotta be careful what I'm showing here. Show it quickly. Red Wolf, Red Riding Hood thing where the wolf is, I don't know if, you know, he's having sex with a woman. I don't know if this woman's dead at that point, but he's like snacking on her arms and her hands and all that kind of craziness. You get the weird fetal position float around eyeball thing. So it gets all kinds of nuts. But then you get to the end, after all these different weird little scenes happen, you get to the end and there's, you know, supposedly a werewolf has crashed through the church's, the church's window because she's turned into a werewolf. She's running off through the woods, which that's an awesome panel. I just love this panel. Cool stuff. And then suddenly she's like, whoa, she's next to the pool table again. So that's all stuff, and she's like, oh no, Mom, you guys go swimming without me. And she's like, and she looks down, and it's advanced spells number 8, shape-shifting. And she realizes, oh, I turned my boyfriend into this thing, and maybe I've turned into it too, or that's the dog, and she's gonna turn into it. So I don't know if this is like she just had a bad fever dream of what could have happened if she kept messing with this spell. That part we don't know, but literally all that stuff in the middle, I would say maybe hasn't happened yet, because she goes, hey, you go into this, we get the revision of her mom asking her if she wants to go to the go to the water park and ride the slide and whatnot. Her saying, no, I don't think I'll do that. That's how I see it.
All right. Awesome.
That's how I saw it, was she gets whacked and then she either remembers all this stuff that happened, but see, she's got that claw on her face.
Exactly.
So it's a like it hasn't happened yet, because you get to the back here.
No claw mark?
Well, she has that claw mark, but she just got it, though. She just got the claw mark, though, because she just got clawed. And she wouldn't be falling down to the pool table again after a day's worth, fall down the same place. But, like I said, it was confusing as all crap. And after I realized at the end that that's what it was, then I went back and read through it again, and I'm like, oh, I really enjoyed it the second time. Because
Maybe I'll have to read it again, because my feeling was boyfriend werewolf, scratches her.
She becomes a werewolf.
She becomes a werewolf.
Which is what you...
There's the exorcism, jump through the window, and then she comes to in the...
back in her basement again?
Back in her basement after having had her werewolf experience.
So why is she having the conversation again about, do you want to go to the...
Yeah, and see, that's the thing I'm not sure about. So I guess, like I said...
That's how I see it. To me, it seemed like it was like some sort of fever dream kind of a thing. Because it just didn't make sense that the basement would be wrecked for more than an entire day.
Yeah,
and then she would come back to it and wake up falling down next to the same place.
Especially because it didn't feel like it was the next day. It feels like, because with the talk she's having with the principal,
well, that's like one day of school, and
like
then there's another day of the weekend or whatever. Right.
Since her boyfriend was
killed. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, well, I guess we'll just see.
So that's how I saw it. So then, like I said, when I read it the second time through, I really enjoyed it. But it was so scattered the first time through it. It was, because there's some crazy pants parts in there. I like the crazy pants parts, but as far as being a cohesive story to go, oh yeah, this told me something, no. But like the whole, her running around the Little Red Riding Hood thing and whatnot, and the werewolf having sex with a lady, and then laying there going, hey, why don't you join me? As he's like, pulling off her hands and snacking her hands and her feet and whatnot. That's all crazy random, but I mean, I like crazy random stuff like that. I just wanted to have some cohesion somewhere along the way.
Like it's gonna
and it didn't until I got to the end and went, oh, that's what they're doing, and then went back and read it again. So.
Okay. Like I said, maybe I'll read it again. Or maybe I'll just wait for next month and see what it looks like. Okay.
Most people didn't care for it that I know that I talked with. So, at any rate, so issue 6 of Cry Havoc.
Now, is that the end
by Cy Spurrier and Ryan Kelly. This is the final issue. I guess if trades sell awesome, they may look at doing some more down the road, but this is probably really the end.
Well, I thought it was a good ending. I like the fact that she comes to the conclusion that she has been looking at two sides of the same coin, and neither one of them have it right. One of them wants to embrace the inner animal and use it to kind of rule over all things.
Right.
And the other side wants to completely quell and kill out the inner animal.
Right.
And she decides that maybe she should just learn how to live with the inner animal.
Yeah, I mean, what it really comes down to is there's two camps. One camp is all the mythological beings that live creatures that have been talked about in all different kinds of cultures and whatnot actually exist in some fashion or another. There's a new breed that's potentially coming, and they're using this new breed. The one group wants to use this new breed a union with this new breed to jettison themselves forward to being in the limelight, being an acknowledged thing. So you would literally walk down the street and there would be, you know, werewolves and chupacabra and all that kind of stuff walking around, and we as normal, mundane human sheep would just acknowledge that, and that'd be fine, and they would function openly without any problems. Whereas, and you're right, the other half wants to exterminate all of that because chaos is bad. Humans don't deal well with with reality. That they should be left in this kind of, well, life that we're living currently right now of not acknowledging that that stuff existed if it actually existed, and we're all just happier. You know, our brains can't handle that kind of knowledge, so they want to just quelch it all, kill all of them that they need to, the ones they can't get in line, and move forward with kind of the status quo, because humans are much more productive, basically, and society is more productive without having that chaos, and then those things are there.
Right. And I just like the fact that she kind of wants to find the middle ground, you know, the same way, like Bigfoot.
Right.
You know, there are people who believe in Bigfoot, there are people who aren't sure, like
Right.
Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. Around in there, just enough belief that if there really is one, it thrives.
Right.
But you're not going to have it lumbering down the street.
Right,
know,
right.
paying their bill and going to work or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
And I like that. I just like the fact that, well, if, you know, we don't have stories, then we'll tell them new stories. We'll figure out how to exist without taking over the world and making everybody terrified, or not exist at all.
Right.
And I like the fact that she just finally accepts that there's no special cure for her.
Right.
And I like the kind of cross current isn't the right word, but the story about the hyenas and how, you know, they have finished that same thing. There's an analogy with
Right,
the
right,
hyenas where
right,
the one
right,
female
analogy.
hyena that kind of started showing male attributes, and they put it back in with the whole pack, and all the pack was like, yep, hey, happy to see you. And, you know, and the fact that they were roaring, that's just kind of awesome.
Right.
Like, the fact that you're going to take your power and accept your power for what it is. I like it.
Yeah.
Because I think it has a larger message to
Oh.
that you can be who you are.
Right.
Whoever that is.
I think there's a lot of that in the book. The book is really smart, I think. There's a lot of different stuff in there about a lot of things. I think there's a issue 1 or 2 of this series has got some really smart kind of just philosophy on storytelling in general, which I thought was really cool in it and whatnot. Another great thing about I really enjoy about these books is, at least with the single issues anyway, at the back of it, the back matter, is Cy Spurrier basically kind of talking about some of the pages, some of the work, some of the extra information that, you know, because when they write these stories, they do massive amounts of research that never actually makes it actually really into the page, or it's just folded in, and maybe you don't know all of that background, and maybe you might be interested in it. So I mean, he goes into great detail on those hyenas, for instance, at the beginning of the book. You know, when the hyenas are first introduced, you know, talks about the how they socially work and all this different stuff and whatnot. Nothing you have to have for the story. It's a great story and it's consumable anyway. But I just thought it was kind of some fascinating stuff there. You know, he talks at length about some of the mythological creatures that are in this.
What
and
they
whatnot.
are, and what countries they're from.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's pretty interesting.
And so I really enjoyed that too. I have no idea when the trade comes out in August if it'll have it in it, but I'm hoping a lot of people pick up the trade just so it does well enough so people will see some more. Because I think it's some interesting. I mean, I don't know what will be next, story-wise, but I'd be curious to see what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more inclined to pick up more Cy Spurrier stuff. Well, in this case, Simon Spurrier. He wrote the Six Gun Gorilla, which I did not like the way that ended. It got weird, and I didn't enjoy it.
I love the first half of it.
But you know, but he's wrote this. He's writing Weavers, which I'm really enjoying. And I know some of the other people out in comic book land have read some of his other stuff that really liked. He was writing X-Men Legacy, I think is what it was, which is kind of a offshoot book that kind of did its own thing and did some weird stuff too that I think I need to pick up at some point. So anyway, yeah, really enjoyed this quite a bit.
Yeah.
And of course, Ryan Kelly's artwork's always amazing. Even the fact most of this thing, he had to have other inkers help him ink quite a few of the pages and whatnot. It didn't throw anything off. The inkers that were doing it were all solid and stayed relatively true to his lines, so it didn't.
Yeah,
it didn't,
no, I never felt like the.
Right.
I was
right.
really seeing
And the
the
book's
difference.
done with 3 colors, which is kind of interesting to give you these 3 different areas. So you visually had visual cues as to where you're at immediately based on what
similar
color.
To, what was that, 8? Radio 8?
No, it was
What's the
8.
name of
It was
that?
8.
Just 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 had that similar.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So,
Like Rumble.
next up we have Rumble, issue number 11. It took quite a while. I think this is one of those books that took quite a while to get this issue out, and I don't know that this is the end of the arc. I think I might have one more issue before the end of the arc. So it's just kind of right in the middle of the arc. You get this kind of gap, which is kind of a bummer. But I still really love Rumble. I love the artwork. James Heron's artwork is brilliant in it. It's so dynamic and has so much movement that I really enjoy it for that. This issue was interesting because there's a lot of these issues don't necessarily have, I don't want to say they don't have a lot of content, but they don't have a lot of high thinking or maybe even for me anyway, a lot of sympathetic reading in it, where I read it and go, oh, I can sympathize with that, or I have empathy for what's going on there. It's just a big fun romp of this kind of mythological being, and set in this kind of maybe our world, maybe not our world kind of thing. I mean, there's just some real whimsy in it that just fascinates me to no end. The fact that one of these camps of mythological creatures and whatnot, they hang out at an abandoned Paul Bunyan like theme park kind of a thing, and the Paul Bunyan's laid over all the time. I love that imagery. I don't know exactly why. There's something about it that's just kind of really intriguing to me, so I just kind of puts it in this kind of, strange kind of a place.
Well, you've been to that Paul Bunyan, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
You and I both have, and maybe.
But I don't know if that's the same place. But there'll be a
no,
big.
but you've been to.
Right. The Paul Bunyan theme park. Anyway,
It's not a theme park.
well, it is kind of. But at any rate, so it all of that stuff. But this issue was different in that it had some emotional content in it. In the fact that, of course, Bobby, isn't his name Bobby? I want to say it's Bobby. Main character, kind of got this whole thing rolling. His mother has died, and the kind of the wish,
Coma.
the wishful, a coma, and then she dies. She flatlines, doesn't she? No, she doesn't. You're right. She was in a coma. She comes out of a coma. She comes out of the coma that she's been in for 2+ years. Bobby's, he wishes, was a girlfriend who is an expert in translating like ancient, Persian languages or whatever, has found a text and kind of wishes her into existence. She gets to have a final conversation with him, and then she drops dead.
Yeah,
and
she checks in with everything, says it's time to go,
and drops
and
dead, literally just.
Then she's done.
And of course, that just wrecks him. All this time she's been around. She's been in a coma. He's been talking to her this whole time. She suddenly wakes up. Says, "Hey, I appreciate you talking to me." Has a conversation and then drops dead. And he gets really angry with her because she kind of implies that she's the one that made it happen. And he just feels like, how dare you set me up to be this torn down. I had resigned myself to the fact that she was going to be in a coma and would just fade away into existence. And you give me this and then take it away. And he's all angry about it. And then she, of course, delivers a landmine at the very end. With, I didn't do it for you. I
did it for her.
Did it for her.
Right. And, and I hope that he kind of comes to his senses a little bit and is able to talk to her about that further, because I felt like what she gave him was a gift, not
oh sure,
not a horrible, mean, cruel thing. I mean, yes, it's awful. I mean, having lost my mom suddenly, if she somehow resuscitated and talked to me for a few minutes, told me everything she wanted to tell me, and then dropped dead, that would be terrible. I would feel awful.
It would be even worse if you hadn't talked to her for 10 years or something
or
before,
2 years, exactly.
and then suddenly you got to talk to her.
Yeah, so that part was hard, but at the same time, I thought it was kind of beautiful. Like, she got to say what she wanted to say, and
sure.
she said, "I think it's time to go now. Like, I'm done." And he's like, oh, well, I think they're going to want to run some more tests on you before we leave. And she said, no, honey, you know.
Yeah.
And then she
Right.
lies down, and that's it. She's gone. And
Yeah.
I just felt like that was, I don't know. I hope that he comes to see that more as a
Oh,
gift.
I'm sure he will at some
Plus,
point.
he really, you know, had this huge crush on her, and she seemed to like him back. And I just,
Well, I don't think this is the end of anything.
no, I know.
Well, all we get is the emotional. Once she basically admits that she's the one that set it up. You know, I guess I understand his feeling betrayed in one sense, in the fact that he had emotionally come to terms with what was going to happen, and then to suddenly get this high, and then slammed with the worst of the worst.
Right.
That he's just, you know, emotionally raw at the time, and so you say dumb things when you're emotionally raw at the time. And that's where it ended. I just thought it was interesting because, like I said, for me, very little of this book has had that kind of content in it.
True.
I've enjoyed the hell out of the book. I think it's a blast. I mean, all this, you know, this whole other world that existed before the world we're in now, these, you know, powerful, magical beings that were raging across
And
the
there's a whole
country,
bunch of other
banishing
plot
all these
going
little
on, too.
races, and, you know, the Hydra stuff, and the necromancers, and all this other brilliant stuff that's going on, the golems, and all of that. And that's what the story really has largely been. I mean, there's been small sympathy things like the half-human, half-EU creators that Rach doesn't like because he's always killed the EU. So,
Right.
but
And then what's his name adopts them all and keeps
But-
feeding them
yeah,
pizza.
right, he's
He's
feeding
like,
the-
no more pizza.
he's feeding the pizza.
That's the last pizza. And they're like, okay, we will watch the TV. We'll watch the movie.
and they're watching Frankenstein.
Yes.
Over
that
and
is the
over and
movie-
over.
That is the movie that they are watching. Is like, I have other movies.
Yeah,
No.
and they have Frankenstein on loop.
And I just think they're adorable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, but what I'm just saying is, for me there hasn't been that. So this was kind of a surprise issue to
Yes.
have emotional weight instead of just being this fun, crazy, you know, action adventure thing with some comedy thrown in there. You know, as this guy awkwardly tries to deal with this stuff, but at the same time wants to live a normal life, wants to have a girl, and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I enjoyed it. Like it a lot. Issue 11. And then finally, issue 8 of Bitch Planet, yet another book
Had a big gap.
that suffers from big gaps. So what? Are you woman enough to survive? Bitch Planet. President Bitch. She's been cleaning up other people's messes for years. What you think?
I thought it was a really interesting introduction into what happened to the, well, not what happened to the trans community, because obviously the trans community would be really underground in a place where male-dominated society is king. Why on earth would you want to do that to yourself if you are, you know, from the male-dominant point of view?
And isn't that the point? Isn't that the point where everybody kind of, you know, as far as in our society currently now, and a lot of people's views of, you know, like trans women or whatever, oh, they're doing it just to get something. Why would you do that yourself?
Yeah, I know. What?
I mean, I don't think there's any place in the world that basically society hasn't basically been misogynistic in one sense or another. You know, so why would you, if you're male and you already have a leg up on everything, why would you make the choice to what's the advantage? That some people seem to think that people are making the choice to go from, you know, male to female because it's getting them some whatever.
That's a choice. It's not a choice.
Right.
You know, you're born who you are, and sometimes your body doesn't match.
Well, right. So I mean, to me, that was clearly part of the story, and I thought it was delivered very well. I appreciated that and those elements of it as far as the trans.
And then they have what must have been the key political leader kind of
yeah, we get that exposure
community
again.
in their, you know,
Well,
solo cell.
Right.
And then the kind of, I would guess you would say, trans support group that exists outside where they're meeting and saying, we are the daughters of whatever that person's name is.
Uh-huh.
So I like the fact that people are still meeting and attempting to be themselves in a society that is so completely messed up when it comes to opinions and
Right.
attitudes toward women.
Right.
And then there's that heartbreaking part about the architect meeting the hologram of his daughter and knowing for sure that that's not her.
Yeah, he smartly, because he's a smart man, figures it out, asks the right questions, figures out that I want to say Miko, but that isn't right.
Is it Miko or Mako? I mean,
Miko or something
it
like that,
has
right?
K in it, so
Okay, that she died a couple issues ago at the
she was killed
in the
arena.
what the hell's that called? Whatever the weird rugby / football game kind of thing was called. Yeah, they killed her in that, and of course they needed him because he's this great engineer that's gonna retrofit the Bitch Planet so they can actually have a full-fledged competition there and whatnot. And of course he has his own designs, which is gonna be really interesting. You know, from just a pure fiction story, you know, you got this you know, these people are trying to kind of like, they're looking for their sister and are, you know, potentially gonna, you know, cause a riot or do something to escape maybe, or take control of Bitch Planet or whatever. But at the same time, there's now somebody on the ship, because Bitch Planet is basically a big giant ship, right? That is potentially going to do something that could crash the whole thing or blow it all up.
Sabotaging it. I don't think that he's going to attempt to kill all the women, though, because he is a person who, you know, throughout his whole time, I mean, he started out trying to sabotage their
so then what would be the point?
warships and stuff.
So then what would he be doing?
I don't know.
That would
freeing people, letting the prisoners out so they can maybe throw over, and then I don't know what his point is, but it'll be interesting finding out. And maybe he is going to just destroy the whole thing.
I think he's on a
to kill all of the rest of the people who live there.
I think it's a suicide pact personally, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess you're right. We will.
Really enjoyed this issue. But like I said, one of those books I really wish would get
really good.
I wish would get on track. I get the idea of the gaps for people to take the breaks for the railroad, but I thought the gaps were going to be these every 3 issues we get a backup story on a character. So does that mean the next issue, issue 9, is going to be is not going to be part of the plot? It's going to be
an issue about someone like the Pennyworth issue, which was one of my favorite issues ever.
It was fine.
I really liked it.
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying though. But it tends to be disruptive to the story when the story's already being disrupted by massive delays of trying to get the book right. And I get the idea of trying to get the book right. And she feels like she's dealing with sensitive matters, so she needs to make sure she gets it right. I get all of that, the writer and artist, but it would be really helpful for those of us who are reading in singles if it had some level of consistency as far as when it comes out. I mean, I know people who missed this book and missed Pretty Deadly because it was so long in between that they missed
fell off with their
they missed missed the orders of it. It just disappeared, which sucks for the sales of the book too. So anyway, really enjoyed it though. As a whole, good stuff.
Okay, so overall, good week. We wish that people were able to actually put their monthly book out monthly.
That's just my bitch of the week, yeah.
Okay.
It seemed like it. It just seemed like, because there were so many issues. And this one, well, I guess 1, 2, 3. I guess it wasn't so many issues.
They're just ones we really like.
One, yeah.
So.
About half of them. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we probably already talked too long, so let's come back with our.
Disembodied Voice is saying goodbye.
She is.
I'm saying goodbye too.
See ya.